بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وقدوتنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. So today we have a new lesson, but before that, just a very brief review. We started with basically the most basic sentence that we could possibly form. I'll do a share screen here. Wait for it to come. There we go. Working? Yes. Which was hada and then a noun after it. And today we're going to learn hada's brother or cousin, ذلك, and we'll understand what type of word hada is and learn some more things about it. But we started out by just having a simple sentence, hada masjidun. Using hada and then a noun to say that this is something. And we talked about a little bit about grammar. We talked about how masjid had to have, where's my pen here? Yes, had to have a tanween at the end, masjidun. And that communicated a couple of things. First of all, the fact that it was a dhamma instead of, say, a fatha, instead of, say, a kasra, was telling us that this was in the nominative case. We talked about very briefly what is the idea behind the grammatical case. We said that Arabic is a synthetic language as opposed to an analytic one, which means that it has things as part of the word that tell you what is going on in the sentence. So we started with our English example, Tom hit the ball. And then we said, oh, okay, how do we know that Tom's hitting the ball in English? We said because of the order that the words appear in the sentence, right? If I flip the order, I reverse it, I say the ball hit Tom, all of a sudden, Tom is the one getting hit and not hitting the ball anymore, right? And then we made up a fantastical language called Engelbic, where we said that we were going to add things to the words to show who was doing the action and who was receiving the action. So we said that we would put an oo sound at the end of whatever was doing an action, and we would put an a sound at the end of whatever was receiving an action. And so in our new awesome language called Engelbic, it suddenly became Tamu hit the ball. And then we realized that if we did that, that it didn't matter so much what order we put the words in, right? We could say the ball hit Tamu, and it would still mean the same thing, that Tom would still be the one hitting and the ball would still be the one getting hit. And we said that this idea is probably a really good tool to understand how Arabic works, okay? So these are the types of things that are going to change. What's on the end of the word. And they are going to tell us information about that word. What is it doing? Is it the subject? Is it the predicate in the case of a nominal sentence? Is it the one that's doing the verb? Is it the one that's receiving the verb? Does it come after some sort of preposition that indicates where it is or location or something like this? So all of that, oops, I don't think I was, to make sure I was recording. I don't think I ever hit the record button. 1 second. Okay, it is recording. Right, okay. So that was kind of our introduction to the idea of grammatical case. And we said it was going to be more important the further we got. But we started with if that's too much for you, we started with هذا مسجد and all the vocab that came along with it. Then we complicated things just a little bit. We said, okay, if I have this basic sentence, هذا مسجد, then we learned how to make questions. First of all, we learned how to make a yes or no question. So we turned our affirmative sentence, we turned our affirmative sentence, هذا مسجد, and we added a hamza before it to make a question. أهذا مسجد. I'll go back to the whiteboard. I'll clear my terrible handwriting. So we had, pardon my chicken scratch, هذا مسجد. And then all we had to do to turn it into a yes or no question was to add a hamza. And that hamza happened to sit on top of a alif. Don't worry, it's still a hamza. أهذا مسجد. And all of a sudden, we're able to ask questions if we have an idea what something is, but we're questioning what the identity of that thing is. Then we learned a second question word, which was ma. And ma, we said, was used for objects. Ma hada. What is this? And then finally, we learned men, which is used for not objects, but for people. Men hada. And we learned a bunch of vocab that is tied to answering those questions. Okay, so that brings us all up to today. Today we're going to learn a new word, which is ذلك. ذلك. We learned هذا. هذا meant this. Okay? ذلك means that. What is the difference? If you're going to explain to someone who's learning English as a second language, what's the difference between this and that? Let's hear from somebody. Any volunteers?
I could volunteer.
Sure.
Okay, so this is something that is kind of in your hand and right in front of you. That is something that's further away, because I understand something you have to point at.
Excellent. Fantastic. So the difference between this and that is distance. This is close and that is far. And we'll talk whether we mean literally or figuratively. It can mean either, but we'll get back to that. What you need to know at this point is that هذا is for something that is close and ذلك is for something that is far. What are these types of words called? These types of words in English are called, whoa, I'm still in Arabic, sorry. Demonstrative pronouns. Whoa. Yes, demonstrative pronouns. Oh, excellent. Someone knew that. Sorry, it's a little bit tricky keeping up with the chat and the videos and the share screen, but we're finding our way. In Arabic, demonstrative pronouns are asma, the plural of ism. That is a meme, sorry. Asma'ul ishara. And we said that the grammar terms would be important because there's going to come a point where I'm just going to use the Arabic terms because some of the categories in grammar translate to English and some of them do not. Asma'ul ishara. Why is it called a demonstrative pronoun? Because it needs some sort of context that demonstrates what you're talking about. Imagine you're sitting on a park bench in Proctor Park and someone just sits down next to you and they says, "This is really nice, isn't it?" You would kind of have to look at them and figure out what are they talking about? Is it the weather that's nice, the park that's nice, Maybe they have a nice beverage in their hand. As opposed to if you were sitting down at the coffee shop with your friend and you have coffee like I do. Bismillah. Ah, this is so good. Right? It's understood from the context what you're talking about. This, something close to you. So there has to be something that indicates what it is exactly that you're talking about. Asma'ul ishara, right now we're going to break it down into two categories. We have close, and we said that that is hada. And then we have far, and that is dhalika. Now, here's a question. Allah starts Surah Al-Baqarah with Alif Lam Mim, Dhalika al-kitabu la rayba fih. He says that is the book. Dhalika al-kitabu la rayba fih. That is the book in which there is no doubt. Why does Allah use a demonstrative pronoun that indicates something far away when we have the Quran right in front of us and it's actually quite close? Any ideas? I hinted at it earlier. It's about sometimes, most of the time, we're using demonstrative pronouns literally. This is close to me, that's far away. Other times we use demonstrative pronouns, yes, exactly, to indicate figurative distance. Sometimes that distance implies that this thing is honored, right? There goes that man. He might be walking right by you, but you say that because he's someone of a status that's much higher than you, or an ability that's much higher than you. And so Allah actually uses ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ to elevate as a distance to kind of elevate the status of the Quran in that particular ayah. Good. Okay, let's go to the book and let's get into some examples. Where are we at here? Yes. Okay. الدرس الثاني ذلك. Let's have Rashad. Can you read our first example here?
Sure. ما ذلك.
Good. Answer?
ذلك نجيم.
Close.
Oh, Naj. Wait, sorry. Najmun, sorry.
Excellent. Perfect fix. Good job. So we're using, this is cumulative. We're building off of what we learned before. We have ما ذلك. We're able to ask a question right away. What is that? ذلك نجم. That is a star. Najmun is a star. The tanween tells us that it is indefinite, meaning that it's a star among many stars. ذلك نجم. Good. Let's have Kylie. Can you do the second example here?
Yes. هذا مسجد هذا مسجد
Okay.
وذلك بيت.
Excellent. Good job. هذا مسجد. And look, the people who put together this book, they made the masjid close to the text and the house far away, so that they're trying to help you, show you one of them is closer and one of them is further. هذا مسجد. This is a masjid, and mashallah, what a nice masjid it is. وذلك, that a little bit further away, baytun, is a house. Let's go to the Sayyid, someone from the Sayyid household. Can you do the next example for us?
هذا حسن.
Good. Yes. And the answer, or the next one?
وذلك حمار.
Excellent. Azakumullah. This is, the closer one, is a horse. حصان. وذلك حمار. And Dr. Muhsin let his wife do this example because he got in trouble, I think, last time. وَذَلِكَ حِمَارٌ. And that is a donkey. Excellent. This one is near. It is that, therefore we use هذا, demonstrative pronoun, اسم الإشارة, for something close, and ذلك اسم الإشارة, for something farther away. Let's go to Ibrahim. Can you do the next example?
ذلك كلب لا ذلك كيتون.
Excellent. Good work. So again, we have incorporating our questions and our tools for making questions from the last classes. ذلك كلب would be a statement. That is a dog. But we're not sure. We want to ask. We have a suspicion, but we'd like to make sure. So we say, أذلك كلب? We put the hamza in front. It makes it a yes or no question. Is that a dog? And that cute furry cat over there is not a dog. So our answer is لا, no, ذلك قط. That is a cat. Excellent. Someone from the Sheikh family, could you do the next example?
ما ذلك ذلك سرير.
Very good, mashallah. What is that? So now we have, again, our open-ended question. We have no idea what that is. We really just want to know the name of this thing. And so we're going to use ma because it is an object, it's not a person. And we're going to ask about the identity of this thing. Ma dhalika. What is that? Dhalika sarirun. That is a bed. Ooh, now we're going to get a little more interesting here. Someone from the Shahada family, could you do the next example?
من هذا ومن ذلك هذا مدرس وذلك إمام.
Excellent. Very good. So now we've got our third and final question word that we had learned to ask the identity of a person. Men. It would not be correct to say ma hadha or ma dhalika and gesture towards a person. That would be considered rude. So we have to use men who's saying who. Similarly, we can't go up to a chair or a table and say man hadha. People will think that you're not all there. So we have individuals, human beings here. Man hadha, close. Wa man dhalik. Hadha mudarrisun. This is a teacher. Wa dhalika imamun. And that is an imam. Close by his masjid where he belongs. Good. Let's keep rolling. Who else would like to volunteer for the next question?
Hi, this is Mir. I would like to volunteer.
Okay, Mir, go for it.
Okay. Ma ذلك. ذلك حجر.
Very good. Ma dhalika. What is that? Dhalika hajarun. Hajarun is a rock or a boulder. Very good. Okay, we have our last exercise here, and we have just a couple of people who haven't gone. I see a name in Arabic. Is it Musarrat?
It's Masarat, yeah.
Okay, can you do the last one for us?
Sure. هذا سكر وذلك لبن.
Excellent, very good. And I apologize, the pictures are not very clear. These are sugar cubes, and this is supposed to be a jar of, or a glass of milk. So we have هذا سكر. It should sound familiar because it's a cognate with English, sugar. هذا سكر وذلك لبن. And that is milk. In some places in the Arab world, leban is milk, and sometimes it's yogurt. I guess here, again, we don't really have a very clear image, but here it looks like it might be a jar of milk. وَذَلِكَ لَبَنٌ. Notice again how every single predicate that we're dealing with here has un. It has dhammatan, 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 right? Dhammatan, dhammatan, un. We were talking about in the beginning of class, one of the first classes, what the two main types of sentences were in the Arabic language. Can anyone refresh us? What are the two main types of sentences?
Yes.
I can try.
Yes, please.
جملة اسمية and جملة فعلية.
Very good. Ahsanti. Exactly. We have two types of sentences, and they're identified by what type of word begins the sentence. So we have jumla, which we said was the word for sentence, ismiya, and jumla fi'liya. And we said that we were going to take jumla fi'liya, that were sentences that began with verbs, and we're putting them to the side. We're not even going to think about their existence for a while. We're just going to live in the room with jumla ismiya. Now that we're in that room of jumla ismiya, we said that we have to know the different parts of the room, and that there are two main parts to that room, al-mubtada and al-khabar. And if you can know that much, then you will be well on your way. Mubtada roughly corresponds to the subject, mubta. Yes, good. Mubtada and khabar. Subject and predicate. And then we said that in a jumla ismiya, we have mubtada and we have khabar. What is the case, the grammatical case of the mubtada, and what is the grammatical case of the khabar? They are both the same. They are in the nominative case. For now, what that means to you is that that's represented by a dhamma or two dhammas. Okay? That's why every single example we have, masjidun, labanun, sukkarun, everything is in the nominative case. We use the nominative case to talk about identity, is statements, this is that, this is so on and so forth. And we'll use it for a couple different scenarios as well. But the important thing to realize is that both the mubtada and the khabar must be in this particular grammatical case, represented at this stage in our learning by dhamma. What is this grammatical case called? In English, we call it the nominative case. And in Arabic, which is way easier, and I recommend that you learn this, it is called marfu'. Marfu'. That's a fact. This is marfu'. Both the mubtada and the khabar have to be marfu'. So it's not going to ever be هذا سكر. هذا سكران. It's always going to be هذا سكرون. And that's why, remember how we pointed out that with the examples that were at the ends of each chapter, they actually got rid of the markings, the fatha, dhamma, kasra. And that now you can actually read those words in those examples correctly without needing them. You know automatically that it has to be qalamun, himarun, kalbun, because of your knowledge of the word, the vocabulary, and because of your knowledge of the grammar of the sentence. You know that it is a jumla ismiya. It's a sentence that begins with a noun. those types of sentences have two parts, mubtada and khabar, and both of them are in this grammatical case. So they have to have a dhamma. I just have to plug this in 1 second. Okay. Our next question is, and I alluded to this before, what do we make of the fact that our words that we've been using don't have a dhamma at the end of them in the beginning? You say, Tom, wait a second. You said that the mubtada has to be in the case of marfu', and that the case of marfu', we know it's marfu' because it has a dhamma at the end. So we have, let's say, هذا كلب. I understand kalbun. Kalbun has that dhamma at the end. Okay. But what's going on with hada? Why doesn't hada have a dhamma at the end? Is it an exception to the rule? Is it not actually in this case? Would anyone like to take a stab at this? Conundrum. Dilemma. Exception hidden. Anything to do with alif? That's a good question. There are some words where it does have to do with alif. This particular word, it does not. So in Arabic, I hope everyone has this that needs to have it, because I'm going to erase it just a second. In Arabic, we can divide all words into two categories. Here's words. One is called mabni, mabniyun. And the second type is called mu'rabun. Said, oh my word, what is that? Simply, it means, does the end of the word change to reflect grammatical case? Okay, all the stuff we're talking about, dhamma, kasra, fatha, if the end changes to reflect its grammatical case or not. Okay, there are words, yes, indeclinable would be a decent translation. So some words, their endings never change. Demonstrative pronouns happen to be some of those words. Demonstrative pronouns such as hada, such as dhalika, do not change their endings no matter what, no matter where they are in the sentence. Even if it was the object of a verb, I ate this, hada, it would still be hada. You said, this is good, the subject of a nominal sentence, it would still be hada. It would not change. In fact, the author began the book like that to take it easy on you, because we don't even have to think about it. We don't have to change anything. I don't have to explain why it's a dhamma. We can focus on the second part of the sentence, which is the predicate, and what's going on with that. Whereas words that are mu'rab, they are words whose endings change to reflect grammatical case. So there's different types of words. Nouns, by default, are mu'rab. There are exceptions, like the sister said, some of them that have an alif at the end, there are exceptions. But for the most part, by default, nouns change their endings depending on where they are in the sentence. Certain types of verbs, not most of them. And we'll learn more about this later on, but just to put it on your map in case you were wondering, why is it that hada doesn't change? There is your reason. Good. Okay. Let's go back to, there was a question about the shadda. Let's look at that shadda. Where was it? Okay, why is the shadda on the ta in this case? That was the question. Let's get back to the book. Which ta were we talking about? Oh, qit. Okay, good. I'm really glad you asked that question. That brings us to another point about the Arabic language that it will be very helpful for your tasawwur, for your kind of just entire conception of what's going on. Notice what's the difference between kalbun and qittun and even himarun and hisanun is that qit has less letters than the rest of the words, right? Or we should say it seems like it has less letters than the rest of the words. Every word in the Arabic language, for the most part, is based off of a 3-letter root word. Okay? From that root word, we derive all sorts of words. We derive the noun, we derive the verb, we derive the doer, the receiver of an action, all these sorts of things. Even a place, like we were using the example dars, darasa, in last class. Darasa is a verb that means he studied. Madrasa is the place where you study, the school. Daris or mudarris is someone who teaches. Mudarras is the thing or the one that's being taught, right? A dars is a unit of study, right? Like a lesson, and so on and so forth. So the default is that every word can be traced down to a 3-letter root. So we only see that there's 2 letters here, qaf and ta. But in reality, what we have is we still have a 3-letter root. It is in reality qaf, ta, and ta. But what happens when something has a shadda is simply that the first one has a sukoon, and the second one gets the whatever, the harakat, whether it's dhammatan, in this case, qittun, or a fatha in another case, or anything like that. So does that answer your question? So the shadda doesn't have to do with anything grammatical. It has to do with the actual word. There are some words that, in order to complete or achieve the 3-letter root, they actually have a doubled letter. And so instead of saying qatata, qatatun, the Arabs, they merge those two with idgham and say qattun, right? And that's the default rule for most words like that. Good. Okay, excellent. Let's see. Oh. So we did all of that. Okay, good. So your homework are these exercises to write them. Notice how they've taken away the fatha, dhamma, kasra. You should be able to read them correctly without that help, because now you know the word, the vocab, and now you know the grammar. هذا سكر وذلك لبن. So practice writing them, and we have some new words. And we don't have enough time to get into the next lesson. So we'll start next lesson, inshallah, on Wednesday, where we talk about the difference between definitive or definite and indefinite nouns. Very good. Does anybody have questions? Is the response to adhalika always dhalik? If you're answering in complete sentences, yes, right? Arabic, just like any language, it's going to have various levels of formality. So if a bunch of teenage guys are hanging out, they're not going to say, is that a pen? Yes, that is a pen, right? They're going to say, like, is this a pen? Like, yeah, right? They're going to be clipping off things, and there's going to be, the context is going to be speaking louder than anything else. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're wondering, is it possible to flip the demonstrative pronoun? So the question is, like, for example, we say, what's that? Is it possible to then say, this is a? Yeah, it depends. That's a very good point. It depends on distance, because there's something about perspective that's going on there. If somebody says, what's that? And it's with me, it's far from them, but it's close to me, then this is something that is an issue of perspective, right? So yes, it is possible. it is possible to say, is that coffee? You can say, yes, this is coffee. That's a very good point. The next question, whenever there is a two-letter word, will the shadda always be present? When it comes to nouns, usually, yes. Particles are different. So like joining words like min, men, ma, those sorts of things. But if we're talking about nouns, yes, you're almost always going to have a two-letter word is almost always going to have a shadda because it's almost always based on a three-letter root. One second, I need to make sure that this is plugged in so it doesn't shut off on us. Okay. That's better. Sorry about that. I was wondering why the battery was draining. And it was, I had everything plugged in, but the cord was not plugged into the wall. So it doesn't benefit me at all. Good. So yes, with nouns, so yes, to answer your question with nouns, it is going to almost always have a shadda to accomplish the three-letter root. And as we said to the other question, yes, it is permissible to switch perspectives when responding to these sorts of questions. Is that coffee? Yes, this is coffee. Naam, hada qahwa. Totally possible. Any other questions before we dismiss for the day? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Inshallah, I'll see you on Wednesday. And if not, you can also catch up with the classes on YouTube. The YouTube channel is pinned on the Masjid's Facebook site. And I will see you next time, inshallah. Ameen wa yakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.